Uh, let's see, we had a roll call. I guess first, let's have a roll call. Mr. Burst?
Present.
Mr. Pope?
Present.
Mr. Tanner?
Present.
Mr. Barnard?
Present.
Chair here. Let's have a moment of silence. I'm going to ask Mr. Burst if he will to lead us in prayer.
Yes, Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day, Lord. We ask that you would bless us, oh God, as we go into the deliberation of this meeting. And we ask God for your divine guidance, for your divine wisdom and knowledge. Father, we pray, God, you continue to bless all the citizens of this county and this city. We pray, God, you just continue to bless us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Yes, please.
Join the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. Yes, speaker.
Yes, with Mr. Jeff Fogel, is that pronounced right?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Good afternoon.
Y'all hear me okay, I guess? Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Jeff Fulgham, and I'm from Fargo, Georgia. And I came here to share some information with you concerning the national security risk that is posed by using corporations like Dominion and others to handle our elections. Let me briefly share with you my background so you understand how I draw my conclusions. I served 20 years in two branches of the military, the Navy and the Army National Guard. I'm currently a retired Sergeant First Class with the Army National Guard. During the War on Terror, I worked in anti-terrorism and force protection with the Navy during Operation Noble Eagle. And it was my job to analyze and assess threats. And basically what you would recognize is threat assessments. I worked in research and analysis. I later transferred to the Guard to serve on the front lines, and I served in Iraq and Afghanistan in counter-IED operations, and was wounded in 2011, came back home, finished my career up in the reserves going to school. With the GI Bill, I earned a BA in history with elective studies in Homeland Security. So I further developed my understanding of national security and Homeland Security threats. So let me begin by looking at the contracts that we sign with these companies. For example, the contract with Dominion that Georgia signed is 111 pages long. I've read that contract. And one of the problematic areas is that because Dominion is a private company, we have to give them trade secret protection laws. Well, that creates a secrecy around several key areas for security. Number one, the public doesn't really know who owns the company or who invests in the company. They're protected from that. We also don't know the backgrounds of their contract workers or how their systems operate, the computer systems themselves. So for example, let's say that you here in Ware County recognize what might be considered irregularities in the count. If you wanted to do a audit or a forensic exam of the system, you would have to go through a commission in Washington called the Elections Assistance Commission, who chooses certain corporations that you could use to analyze that computer. For example, Maricopa County, Arizona, they recently had to pay $120,000 just to run this test on their computers. And they had to go through an approved, what's called a lab, a firm. Now, as far as their contract workers, I have heard the CEO of Dominion testify at a hearing that they did not run background checks on their contract workers. Now, handling our elections is actually more sensitive than the handling of many cases of classified materials in the military. And I think we're lagging behind this understanding. Now, who owns Dominion exactly? So you might have heard in newspaper reports, you might have heard it said, well, Dominion is a U.S. owned company, and the way the narrative goes is there's really nothing to worry about here. But that's not what I would consider a full disclosure. And I want to say that I'm a researcher, and I work now as a historian for myself. So I'm not, it's nothing personal against any one company. Dominion, in fact, was born in Canada, so it's foreign born by a Canadian citizen. In 2003, they didn't open up an office in the United States until 2009 in Denver, Colorado, to, I assume, get these contracts. Now, the majority of the company is owned by a company in New York called Staple Street Capital. It's a securities and investment firm. It's important to note that they, Staple Street, actively manage Dominion. They're not a silent partner. 1 month before the elections, Staple Street received $400 million from UBS Securities in New York. Now, we know this because we have a Form D document that was filled out with the Securities and Elections Commission. This is a form that you can go to the federal website now and pull this form up, and it will show you that someone, we don't really know who, invested $400 million into Dominion, or into the Staple Street, who owns Dominion, 1 month before the elections. The document is dated October 8, 2020. Okay? Now, it could be that UBS Securities brokered an investment with private investors, but because of the secrecy in the trade secret laws, we don't know who did it. But here's what we do know. UBS Securities is a global firm. They're based in Switzerland, the UBS Group. They not only have offices in New York, but they have offices in Beijing, China. So what does all this add up to? In my assessment, this presents a clear national security risk. And the reason is because of this. In the national security field, there are not only physical threats, national security threats, such as the destruction of people and places like we saw on 9/11, but there's more subtle threats, such as efforts to undermine or destabilize America's economy or our institutions. Our democratic institution is our most valuable institution, our elections, okay? This arrangement has created a vulnerability in the system that entices anyone. We're talking about what we call foreign bad actors, whether it's, the enemy, domestic or foreign, who feels they could influence elections by investing in these companies. And there's no law that prevents them from selling to anybody or taking $400 million from someone a month before an election. So the greater threat here, though, is something that is kind of holistic in nature, that is more than just our elections, and that is the more corporations take over our governance and get involved in anything, we're losing sovereign control of our nation. And my recommendation is, and this is why, in the past 3 months, I've been to Washington to meet with people. I've been to talk to officials openly, publicly, like I am today. And my recommendation is this. I recommend to the people of Georgia and everywhere that uses these companies to contact your state representative, because they write most of the election laws, and express your concern. And I recommend that we discontinue using private companies to run these systems, and the state of Georgia take back sovereign control of our elections. I appreciate your time, and I'm open for any questions if you have any.
Do we have any questions on that?
I got a few questions and would like some clarification on a few things. And in the for full disclosure, I talked with this gentleman today because I didn't know exactly what. I mean, just a little brief synopsis. he was coming, and I didn't know whether he was trying to sell something about election security or what. But, you know, you mentioned about the election and the Dominion, which, like I said, it's a privately owned company, 2003, but it came to the United States, I think, in 2009, you said?
Yes, sir.
So, between 2009 and now, I haven't heard anything about any issues about, you know, the election stuff like that, but all of a sudden it seems like now it just surfaced. And could you explain why that is? I mean, had you even been advocating for this before this time?
No, no, sir. One thing I will share with you is that after the 2016 elections, there was reports of Russian hacking, okay?
Right.
And the hackers, if you read the reports, they did not get into any of the computer system, the voting systems, but they did hack into voter roll books in some of the states. That caused in 2017 the Obama administration to basically create, or I should say, take the election system and designate it as part of one of the critical infrastructures that is overseen by one of the departments, like, for example, nuclear systems, nuclear reactors, or dams or bridges. They're overseen by certain agencies. So now, beginning in 2017, it's overseen by the Department of Homeland Security. That was one of the biggest changes, is the awareness that was brought forth from the election hacking during 2016.
Okay. And like I say, a lot of stuff seems like to me it's just surfacing, you know, about this election. And, you know, even with the last election, there were like maybe 60 or 65 lawsuits filed about contesting the election, in which every one of them pretty much was thrown out, you know, or dropped or whatever. And I guess I'm just trying to find out, you know, okay, you have Dominion and you got two other companies, I think, that the biggest voter, you know,
Yes, sir.
that supply the machines and everything. And I guess the bottom line to me would be, and I appreciate what you said and the research you've done, but in the final analysis, did this affect our 2020 elections at all?
Well, a little while ago when you said that they were thrown out, technically none of these were heard in a court of law. Now, I'm not a lawyer. A lawyer could explain the legal consequences or what the determination, but none of the evidence was actually taken to court.
But
So we never really heard the evidence in a court of law.
okay, and could
We
that
have sworn
be,
testimonies, but you know,
yeah. And I believe, you know, even with the guy that was over the, I guess, the cybersecurity with the in the last administration said this was one of the most secure elections there ever was. And you know, so
here's
hearing
my
all kind of things,
yes, sir.
you know, that's floating around out there.
Here's what I'd share with you. On 9/11, 19 guys with no formal military training beat the CIA and the FBI. And on September 10, they were sitting on a lot of evidence. I've researched this case in depth. They knew of a guy named Zacharias Moussaoui who was in the United States, but because of a legal maneuver, they were afraid to run a warrant on his laptop because they did not want it to appear like they were taking away his civil liberties. They didn't want to use the FISA option. And so what I'm telling you now is, with someone with experience of analyzing terrorist threats and conducting research analysis, and also going up against these guys in Iraq and Afghanistan and 300 combat patrols, and you know, they were using tactics against us, and we analyzed these tactics. I came back and I studied Homeland Security, and my assessment, I think we're vulnerable right now. And I think that one day in the future, the agencies are going to recognize that we're losing sovereign control of this nation to the corporations. And I think that this situation is a clear national security risk.
So, just one other thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Now you mentioned about the about the elections and about, you know, the different, there's a lot of theories out there and different things of why this happened, why that didn't happen. And again, back to my main point is that this affects our election because you basically dealing with the election. I know it can go off into, you like to say, the security of the nation and different things of that sort, but and you mentioned about going back to the states taking control of their elections. Can you just explain to me, because I'm thinking that the state still has a lot of input as far as the elections now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they do run the elections, but I would recommend that they do not use corporations to use the software because of the secrecy surrounding these companies.
So who would do that?
We would. We've always done it before. We didn't, until recent years, we didn't really use software companies that came in and that we had to trust. See, nowadays, like I said, the Maricopa County is a perfect example. If you see anomaly or irregularities, you have to pay another corporation to do a test. And actually, they testified in Congress, I think this was in January of 2020, a congressman stated that the testing procedures dated back to 2005 standards or 2007. And I do not recall any one of the CEOs disputing that. The CEOs were there from the election companies. So if, you know, and I'm just recommending as a citizen, you know, I don't make decisions, but I believe paper ballots are much more secure than using a corporation. I think it creates a clear vulnerability.
So don't we have that now with this Dominion? We have paper ballots.
Well, you have a computer, you fill it out, and it prints out a ballot, and the ballot has the name of the candidate it shows and a barcode. So you have to assume that it counted the barcode for the guy that you voted for or the female you voted for. It's not on the ballot. They don't read the name of your candidate. They read the barcode, just like a barcode from a can of soup. No human can read that. You know.
Yeah, I see what you said.
I don't want to take up much more time on that.
I don't know.
Well, if you allow me, okay, and it just so happened we have our election superintendent here today. He had to take some pictures.
Yes, sir.
So it's just, I don't know if it's coincidental or what he's trying to leave out. But as far as with our county right now, Mr. Nelson, did we have any major problems or anything? Even with these, do we use these machines, Dominion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. Come up where I guess we can,
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's good.
Mr. Chairman, Commission, state your question again, Mr.
Yep.
Brooks.
I was asking about, as far as Ware County, like I say, we can only speak for Ware County, but did we have any major problem with these machines or any irregularities?
I'm not a spokesperson for Dominion, one way or the other, but I will say this, our equipment, we don't have any issues. You know, I don't know your name, I'm sorry. Jeff, you know, he did a lot of research and all that. All I can do is speak on what we had here in Ware County. I can say, you you stated that we have, the ballots are created from the machine. Every voter verifies that when they look at their name, the name of their candidates on that ballot, and it's put in the machine and scanned it. In advance of the November election, the state decided to do what is called a risk-limited audit. That was one of the ones they wanted to test and make sure that the accuracy after the election. We always do accuracy before the election to make sure that if we send 120 votes for ballots for one candidate, it comes out that way once we do the final, what we call RTR, results tallying. So we do that before every election. But the state decided to do a hand audit after the election. And they decided this a month before November. It's something they wanted to do to verify that everything was above board and accurate. So thank goodness they did, because in November, over our Thanksgiving break, counties across Georgia, had to hand count and lay eyes on every single ballot. We had 14,253 ballots, and it took us basically 2.5 days of volunteers, of committees, and they looked at every one of them, and he is correct. Every ballot that goes in the machine has a QR code on it. Okay, the computer reads that. The scanner does two things. That big scanner, I think most of y'all voted already. The big scanner does two things. Okay, it will tally the votes, and plus it takes a PDF picture of every ballot that goes into the machine, and it's stored on the memory card. We store those, okay? When we did the audit, and we went back and looked at the numbers for the, that was done in the machine, election day, election night, it came out 100%. So he is correct. I mean, there's no way of knowing, in theory, whether your vote is for the candidate that you chose. But thank goodness the state decided to do that hand count audit, because that has showed that every vote counted in Ware County. I'm not gonna speak for other counties. I'm not worrying about what other counties are doing. All I'm worried about is make sure we're doing it here and we're transparent and we're doing it right in Ware County. But I will say that every vote that was cast in Ware County, it was accurately marked. And we had voters, and we had poll workers and volunteers that marked that laid eyes on every single vote that was cast in Ware County in November. So I have confidence that that every vote that was cast in Ware County counted for the candidate of their choice.
Thank you.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to bring up the Ware County thing, because that's not why I was really here. But if I recall, when they went and did the recount, they found 37 missing votes or something, was it, that was supposed to go to Trump that didn't? Now, if you run that in the calculator, I don't have y'all's figures here, but I believe that came up to like a 0.005% error. And if you take the number that I think what y'all had 14,000 votes that day or something. I forget, but I looked at it, and I believe if you take that number and you multiply it times, what was it, 2.5 million votes each or whatever that the candidates got, I think it comes up to about 10 or 11,000 points, which was what Biden was ahead of President Trump. So again, I'm not analyzing the last elections. That my job is to look at the national security risk as a whole. But since you brought it up, I do recall that it was in the newspapers that when you did the recount, I think you found 30-something missing votes that were supposed to go to President Trump but didn't. And I would just suggest maybe looking at that number. I think it was 0.005% if I remember correctly, and I calculated it for the state just to see what that would have come out to, and I think it was close to what President Trump lost by.
In the state.
In the state, yes, sir. But that's just my thoughts. I wasn't going to mention that. That's not why I was here. But I'm just here to share my knowledge from a federal perspective and the risk that's involved with using these companies. Anybody can invest into it. You could be a Chinese national or whoever, and you could give these people $400 million a month before the elections.
And you think that would be a persuasive
angle? Well, if I gave you $100 million for invest in your business, it might sway your thinking a little bit, but who knows? But it definitely creates a vulnerability.
Yeah.
Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Thank you again. Let me go ahead and respond to that because
That's why I can hear you.
I'm sorry.
Hardly.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I felt I need to respond to the 37 vote thing only because I opened up that door. Okay, just as I told everyone else around the country, from the multiple media sources that called about federal police seizing all machines and all that other stuff. The 37 vote difference was human error on counting the absentee ballots the way they were done through the machine, and there was human error on my board, my text, and me. And duplicating, counting duplicate ballots. So it wasn't done on the machine, it wasn't done on the Dominion scanners or all that other stuff. It was a human error that was done in-house, but that was identified the morning after the election, before we did the audit, okay? It was reported to the paper the day after the election that there was an error made, you know, but it wasn't reported, the board did not report it out or recertify it until a few days later. So it seems like it was done after the audit, but it was done before. You know, when we realized that, hey, we got more votes than we had more absentee ballots, the votes than we had ballots cast. And so then that's when we went through and recertified it and looked at it again. So it had nothing to do with the machines. I fell on my sword, being the supervisor, it was, I take ultimate responsibility that we actually went through the process and did it before all like they say, T's will cross and all I's were dotted. And and I've learned from that to make sure that I do my due diligence before we report out things like that first, to make sure all the numbers match, and I could catch errors like that before, something like this goes public, and it look like there's something nefarious happening.
And this was disseminated out before the audit, I mean?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, but then the audit showed exactly what it was, the way we reported it out after the fact. The audit showed that, and then when we came back and did the recount that was mandated by the state, everything matched the audit and the reported out numbers and the recount all matched up, perfectly. So.
Okay.
To my knowledge, though, to clarify, I don't think you had an audit, an exam run of the machines like a forensic exam. I think he's saying audit is in a recount. But to my knowledge, Ware County did not do a forensic exam of the machines by another corporation.
Of course not.
What-
Yeah. For one thing, this county couldn't afford it.
That's one of the problems.
But the biggest audit was the hand count, where every ballot was looked at, and we said there was a vote cast for Mr. Biden, the vote cast for Mr. Trump. And when we put all the numbers together and had all the stacks together, it came out to be what it is. You can't get no better audit than a hand count on every ballot that was cast in Ware County. We looked at it, and we sorted it out, and we put it in stacks of votes for Mr. Biden, votes for Trump, and votes for any other third-party candidate, and everything matched up perfectly. So that's, to me, that is as good or better than any forensic audit you have, because we have the ballot in place now. We have we have eyes on every vote that was cast in Ware County.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else?
There's no more. No, sir.
Scott, did you have something on that, James guy over in Emerson Park? That note that he had, he wanted a pipe.
Yes, sir. I do.
Do we need to look at that now? Or?
We can afterward. I can give it to you, let you read through it, and we can go over at the end. Be just as fast, probably.
We'll just go into the agenda items. Road restriping bid advertisement.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and Commission, this was on the agenda last month.
Right.
And we were asked to bring back the total list of streets and the proposed cost on doing the striping. And it's included there in your packet of what that amounts to. I think it's somewhere around $500 and some thousand for all the streets that need to be done. Is that right, Brandon?
Yes, sir.
For all
It
streets.
was categorized and needed to be restriped currently.
And we
That's
just-
to do all of them that need doing. 500. Okay.
Is that,
Trying to do it in phases and breaking it up. Try to do it all at once because there's such a need out there for restriping right now. And to also save a little bit of money from the striping outfits by doing it all at one time.
hear a motion to restripe for the restriping.
This is just work.
You want to go into a,
We don't
Yeah,
vote
yeah,
here.
this, yeah, just a work session, so.
Oh, yeah,
That's what I was
okay.
wanting to find out from you all,
On
is
to
if
do
you
it.
wanted
Okay,
to
that's
go
right.
for the whole list or break it up in bits and pieces to do it that way.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
What I wanted to say on that restriping was if we gonna need to, cut those shoulders back before we ever, agree to any restriping. We gonna clean up the roads, there ain't no need to stripe it and put and it stand 4 foot of water, 4 inches of water on the side of the road. So the roads are gonna be, shoulders need to be cut back and clean that grass and stuff off the shoulders where the water get off the road. We got a lot of areas that need to do it. And I recommend that we do that before we ever stripe.
Was that added into this, price estimate, cost estimate, Brandon?
No, sir, we actually spoke with, Mr. Brooks and, gave him an idea of what all was involved.
Yeah, what is involved, because that was not discussed when we initially began discussing restriping. We were going to look for the engineering department to make a recommendation on the streets to stripe in sections.
Yes, sir.
So this brings on a whole new ballgame here.
Yes, sir, and,
Yeah.
when we went and talked with the striping people to find out if there was any advantage of trying to
do it all at once, and there is a little bit of savings there. They said, 3 to 5% maybe you would save by doing it all at one time. So then the big issue on that is the schedule of doing all this at one time, 60 miles at one time of restriping. And then I talked to Mr. Brooks to find out if he thought that was feasible and the kind of time frames we would be looking at, so we could include all that in the bid package that we would send out to the striping contractors. So Mr. Brooks is aware of the restriping list that you have in front of you, and the fact that we are gonna try to do that shoulder clipping and everything in-house through the Public Works Department as part of this project. So we're gonna have to try to stay ahead of the striping contractor and work with them with scheduling the roads that they have already clipped. So it looks like it's, something we'll go ahead and start working on as soon as we can. Unfortunately, we've been having a lot of rains and a lot of roads have been washed out, so we hadn't been able to start on any of the shoulder clipping. But that is something that Mr. Brooks has got on his agenda to try to start just as soon as possible.
So that would slow the whole project down as far as getting it striped.
We hope and plan that it won't slow anything down, that Mr. Brooks will be able to keep up, get out ahead of them, start beforehand. With a bid process, it'll have to advertise for 30 days.
Right.
Then we'll have to bring the results of the bids to the next commission meeting following the bid opening, and they will be, placed in front of y'all for y'all to analyze and decide what is the best and most responsive bid. Then when we make that award, then we'll, execute a contract and bid bonds, and all that takes a little bit of time, usually about 30 days. So if y'all are okay with what you have there, and we can start advertising in Wednesday's paper, the clock on the 30 days advertisement will start from then. And then you got the contract award and the bid documents and all that have to be executed. So he's probably got about a 2-month head start on the actual striping project itself before we ever have anybody actually here striping roads as part of this project.
So the engineering department specify the sections that would be done at one time, or they just go out there and go to whoever wants striping, just go to striping?
No, sir, we have a project list, and we went out and scored all the roads and gave them a 1 through 4 score, 1s being needing immediate striping, 2s being it could make another couple of years before they would have to be restriped, 3 a little further down the road, so on and so forth. And what you have in front of you are those roadways that actually rated a 1 that we felt like needed something soon,
off.
right now, immediate. Yes, sir.
We need to stripe all of the county maintained roads. I'm for that 100%, and they need to be striped. But what I'm saying is, we don't wanna put the striping down with 2 or 3 inches of dirt, 4 inches of dirt running along the edges where they all hold water. You put a stripe down there in that water hole, and it just washes off. It don't do no good. What I wanna do is, I want the edges of the roads clipped back, and then clean up the roads and stripe them. And
Yes,
we'll
sir.
have a good job and it'll last long.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm after. And I think Jerry probably has the same thing. Do a good job on it. Well, that's what I wanna do. Instead of just going out there and striping it in these, because there's some spots now that hold bad water, and we need to cut these roads back where we can. The pavement is cracking in a lot of places. That's a lot of what causes our holes in the edges of our roads, because the water sets up there. So let's do that. Let's do that first.
Yes, sir. That's the intent, correct, Mike?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask,
Yes.
excuse me, I'm playing catch up. How is this funded?
This is funded through our T-Splost. We have a line item for that. Yes, sir.
I've got one other question. Are we gonna do center and edge stripes on everything?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do not put an edge stripe down if there's a curb and gutter section,
Okay.
depending on memory. Are any of these curb and gutter roads that won't get an edge stripe, or do they all get an edge?
There are a few that are curb cut that won't get an edge stripe, but for the most part, yes.
How much is in that account now, Mr. Moore?
That I don't know. I'll have to find out. I do know that we're trying to fund other projects.
Right.
And so from the standpoint of doing projects and kind of spreading it thin, so to speak, on each one of them, so that way we move forward. So that's why it was proposed to kind of do, the 16 streets first, let Public Works get out, clip the shoulders, get those ready, and then come in after, because if you go and clip them all now, it depends on how soon we can get out there and get them done, but when the growing season starts, it could be where we had to go back out there and edge them or something, just to kind of get the grass that's grown out, especially in those high growth areas. But that was the reason why.
As the sales tax is collected, that amount per quarter or month, whatever, goes into different little
Yes, sir.
line items.
Yeah, we're trying to fund the wind clay. Well, that will be coming up pretty soon, and also the $5 million that we're gonna have to give, for the overpass.
That's
Or our share,
priority.
10 million, so.
That's number one on the list.
It comes out of that pot too. So
Right.
what it is it's being spread, each and every month as we receive it. So we still got 2.5 years to go, but right offhand, I don't know what the balance is.
So all the money might not be there at one time to do all of them at one time, just to.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to verify that.
Yes. And I guess going back kind of to, I think I see what the chairman, the direction he's trying to go, okay, it'd be great if we could do, all the streets at one time and all this, just be done with it. But in this case here, would it be more advantageous to us to maybe like the original list that you brought, Brandon, which was like, I think, 16 streets or something like that?
The phase one
The
list?
phase one, to do those, and that way we take care of everything. And I know, like say, we say maybe 3 to 5%, maybe overall. But then it's gonna kind of, I'm just wondering if we're gonna start kind of running into each other out there as far as like Mr. Brooks and trying to get what you say, the shoulder cut back or whatever.
Let me
And,
explain how cutting those shoulders back is, all of the county roads don't need it. There's long miles of it down and through there that don't need nothing done to it. It's just in these heavily areas where you got a lot of dirt roads coming into the roads. And you track a lot of dirt up on the road and then it blows out the side. So in the heavily areas where a lot of traffic are on dirt roads, that's where you have the most problems. And you drag the dirt up on the paved road and then it washes off the wheel and it winds up side of the road. And needs clipping off, carried back down the road. And miles, like the old Swamp Road down there, these miles don't need nothing done. Maynard Millwood Road, It just in intersections where it needs. And I think Michael Brooks knows what I'm talking about. It's not the whole road. I'm not talking about going over the whole road. You can, common sense will tell you to go down that road and look, in them bad spots, they need cutting off.
Well.
Not all of it, and I could probably go over it in a few weeks.
Even the areas where the shoulder's not built up, you'll have the grass encroaching over onto the pavement, and that needs to be cleaned up. So
Yeah, he'll
over
probably
to
be,
the
they'll probably
edge-
do it with a broom when the
over
striper
to
truck
the
go
edge
on.
of the pavement to try to get as much of that out of the way so that they're paving the edge of the pavement, not just where the grass has stopped growing. And a lot of these roads, you know, you got grass encroachment as well.
A lot of that can be done with a good stiff broom on the edge of the road where we don't have no buildup. The one we go after is the one where so much buildup. Steve knows about some of them. I showed him some of them. They high. It needs cutting back. Bad.
Well, how many people does it take to cut the shoulders? Because we haven't done a project like this because there wasn't any people. No, I mean, the people weren't there to do it.
You're talking
So,
about truck driver, motor grader operator, and flagman.
so what do they not do? What's the opportunity cost of them doing that all at one time? And I agree it needs to be done.
Right.
What are they not gonna do if they're doing that?
Right now,
You
we
don't have
got,
the people.
right now we got everybody grading, you know, trying to get roads graded, school bus routes back in line.
Right.
Even got one of our grass trailers, we mow grass with, dragging them, you know, blades, trying to smooth these roads out. You get caught up for 3 or 4 days, you get another 4 or 5 inches of rain, and we're right back where we were at. So, we're just in a wet time of the year, we're just trying to get as much done as we can and keep people in and out right now. I mean, but I will agree, they need to be cut back.
Yeah. Well, my thinking is, I agree with the chairman and Mr. Burris that it needs to be done. My vote would say to do the paving and the road, and the shoulder cutting in one section, just like y'all recommended, and get it all done, do one section at a time, and maybe
Gonna be working on the other ones.
kind of use the men that way. And that's what I think. But I agree it needs to be done, yeah.
I mean, if we go in and do all of these roads right now, 5 or 6 years from now, they all want to go out at the same time. And we're not gonna have money to do it with them. So, I mean, we could not have money to do it with. If we do it in sections, you know, I mean, they'll wear out in line. Just like all these volunteer fire trucks we bought all at one time. Them things gonna wear out all at one time.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, do you think that, and to the commissioner, you think it would be wise and prudent thing to go back to the original that Brandon and his department brought in as far as doing the ones, I think 16 streets or whatever? Take care of those and then move on to the next one. And, you know, I know we're talking about maybe saving 3 to 5% overall, but when you start talking about trying to do it all at one time, sometimes it may be more advantageous, even though we may spend a little more money to do them in those sections like that.
There'll be so many demands on those operators and equipment stretched out over time that you just can't do it all.
Right.
So I'm with you.
It don't take a big crew to, clip the roads back, and the contractor's gonna do the striping, the clipping the roads is just a small crew going there cleaning up the roads, and that maintenance been needing to do it a long time. It didn't just start. That's been, a lot of it already been done, but it hadn't. And you go down through there, and all our streets has got holes all in them, and the water standing in the road, that's what causing a lot of that trouble. And I wanna try to stop some of it. So, maintenance. And it's not that, it don't take that much to do that. Just a little elbow grease, and that's all it takes.
We can still go ahead and clip the roads like you talked about, but just prioritize our striping. Don't try to do it all at
Or
one
you
time.
can do it striping in phases, or you can do it all at one time. That don't make a difference to me there. Cleaning up the roads first. I wanna do that before I put the paint in the water hose. That's all. Anything else? Okay,
We'll put it on the agenda.
Is it gonna be on the agenda?
agenda, yeah,
Yep.
let's put that on the agenda.
So we'll need to take it off the table. We tabled it at the last meeting, so we need to bring it off the table, I guess.
I guess we'll have to take it off on
Yeah.
Scott, or.
Yeah,
take it off.
it's on the agenda, so it was tabled to hold it, and then it can be acted on
Well-
at 5 o'clock.
Well, we could, I mean, we've got it settled in a way, if we're gonna do it, you know, we can do in phases and go ahead with it, but we just wanna clean up the roads prior to striping. If you're gonna do it in phases, go ahead and clean up that part and then stripe it.
I agree.
You know, we can leave it on there and go ahead with it. If we're gonna do it that way, do it in phases or as the whole thing.
And this, the 525, that's just an estimate. I mean, we don't have any hard numbers,
That's the estimate, yes, sir.
so it could be less
Yes, sir. Or more.
or more.
Or more.
I don't usually say that
Just
all.
one comment, that I think, you know, we scored these things 1 through 4.
So there are 2s on our list, and 3s, so forth and so on. So you do the 1s now, in a couple of years, you're gonna have the 2s that are gonna be in the worst shape. And then, you know, so on and so forth. There is a life cycle on anything you do. The thermo is gonna last a little longer than the striping. And it's gonna fade out with the sun and depending on the amount of traffic that gets on that road. So it is a expendable. These are gonna come back up, but we have ones behind these that are, you know, so you're gonna have 2s that are gonna need to be done before probably these 1s come back around and need to be striped again.
We're about to do all 1s this year, 2s next year,
Yes, sir.
3s next year.
We broke it up originally into 4 phases, I think it was. So that might be something that'll help you, Michael. We
Yeah.
have it in 4 phases. And that be our goal, to try to get all that accomplished in this fiscal year and, tackle it in that manner.
Make a big difference.
Yes, sir.
And also too, if you would be able to fit that in the general fund budget each and every year just for that, cause you know, you don't know if you're gonna get SPOS back or not, so. That's right.
I think we ought to do it all, really, at one time. Let all the roads be striped. Now, it won't take that long, and I think Michael could probably catch them bad areas, and they only just around town, the worst ones. We're not talking about stripping back all of these rural roads out there, just a few of them that's got bad spots. I just about, and they're not that many, they probably ain't 10 miles of it, maybe not that much. That need the roads clipped back.
In my neighborhood, the grass has grown over the white. That's the reason I was asking, are we gonna do the white? Because it builds up on the side and then you're gonna have to go back through the neighborhood and you're gonna damage what, even though it's our right of way, the county's right of way, you're gonna damage what they take care of to put that stripe down, and then within a year, if you don't come back fairly often, it's gonna grow right back over, and we're wasting our money.
Yeah. We need to strip the grass back.
And that's just in the neighborhood is what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
some of these smaller streets. But I agree with the yellow down the center,
Yeah.
definitely.
Brandon, how long does he say it'll take to stripe the all of it? Has he got a time limit on it? Or did anybody say how long it would take him to do it?
I think he said he could do it now. I hate to say this from memory, but, I think he said he could do it in 90 days. But we were gonna put 120 days in the contract to make sure that we weren't gonna put Michael in too bad of a bind.
Yeah, okay.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Chairman?
We might not wanna bid it right until we get the roads cleaned up then, a little bit, give Michael a little leeway, you know, before we give him a notice to proceed. We can go ahead and bid it and ask him, tell him that we're gonna do it, you know, in the next 3 months, 6 months,
Yes, sir.
we get it.
I think that we had a window right now in him projecting out DOT projects and things like that. They have a lot of work over the summer. So we had an opening right now of availability that we were wanting to, try to get them on, get them bidding on the work before they got loaded down with DOT work over the summer. And if y'all approve this for us, to go out to bids in whatever form or fashion it gets approved, that's what we're gonna hope to do because of the DOT work coming up over the summer.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
thank you. Right. Brad.
So we need to figure out how it's gonna be listed on the agenda, don't we? Stripe it all,
Or
or
some-
stripe part of it.
Yeah, or just somebody make the motion to do it in that fashion.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be easier.
So,
Do we hear a motion to stripe it all or part of it and
We'll do that.
with the stipulation
do
to
that in the regular
get
meeting.
it back?
All right, just one question. So, if you had the choice to make, Brandon, what would be the best option like you're talking about now? I mean, cause y'all the one that's doing this and y'all know more about it, I know than I do.
Yeah, I would really be speaking out of turn because it's gonna be so critical to what Michael does. So however Michael feels comfortable with it will be fine with us. It doesn't matter to us if we bid out 4 packages or 2 packages or 1 package. Really doesn't matter to us. Changing our bid package is not that big of a deal. What worries me is the weather and how much it impacts Michael's work and how much they're able to do and the stress that they get put under during what we've just seen over the last couple of weeks. That's probably why we were a little more conservative in trying to break it down to begin with in the 4 packages. But that's totally up to Michael. If he feels comfortable, whatever he feels comfortable with, that'd be the way to approach it because of his guys having to be the ones to try to flip these shoulders and do this prep work.
Okay. So what do you feel comfortable with, Mr. Brooks?
We can try it. I mean, I hate to commit because, we don't know about the weather. I mean, like Chairman said, there's some places that are bad, there's some places there's nothing. So, I'd have to look at the exact list to see just, which ones are the worst. Comes back to money as well, I think, funding is part of it, but, I'm fine with breaking it down in phases, and then that way we know we can get it.
I mean, we still can go ahead and get the roads cleared, all of it needs it. Just don't stripe them all right now.
Right. It'll just stop us from doing any, other major stuff right now. Like we do that.
Yeah.
We're limited on trucks, and we have 1 wheel loader and stuff like that, but, we get it best we can.
I know what Michael's got to do. I've done it before. You gotta have a crew that takes a motor grader, a loader, a box blade, that takes flagmans, takes dump trucks, and he's got to build a crew to do this work. I've done it, done miles of it. And it's been needing doing a long time, but it ain't nobody done no maintenance on these roads. And I've done it in a lot of counties, different counties. And you gotta clean up these roads, get the water off of them. If you don't, we tearing up our roads, we just sitting out there, and you've seen puddles of water in the road. The grass needs cutting back. And Michael, we try to put you in no tight place, but he's got to build a crew to do that with. And he ain't got nobody lined up to do it. But we got to allow him time to get this thing started. And he's got to, it takes several men to do it. To walk over this thing.
I've only got like 16 people on
Yeah.
staff.
And he's probably gonna have to put 6, 8 head on that project to clean these roads up. And that needs doing as bad as a dead man needs a coffee. They need to do it. And what we wanna do is what we wanna do is give Michael time to get this thing set up and do it. If we don't stripe it today, we need to get the maintenance work done first. So let's think about that a little bit. Michael, how long would it take you to get up a crew going with it?
Am I hiring people or?
Well, you may have to hire one or two, but I think you probably got some. You may have to change them around, you know. But do you know about how long it'll take you?
We can start tomorrow. It's just something else stops.
You got a grader you could put on it and a loader, and you know what you got to do is back it up.
Loader's being serviced at the shop. As quick as I get loader out, then we could start.
You're gonna need a pickup man and a couple of flagmans and stuff like that, cause you can't work that traffic without flagmans.
That's
and
right.
work.
You really need a street sweeper or a broom, you know.
Yeah, you need a broom.
Driving room. We don't have one. I'd have to rent one of those. Quick as I can get one.
Okay, you don't have a broom, you're gonna have to rent one.
Have to rent one.
All right,
That's what we normally do. We just rent one when we need one. Because we don't, if some you don't use every day.
okay. I'd like to say let's give Michael tell him to go ahead with the clipping and the maintenance, and then come back to us and we'll bid the strike. Does that make sense?
Yep. Now, if I understood it correctly, Brandon said that even with striping bid, it's gonna take some time to get all that going, right? So,
Yes, sir, you gotta advertise for 30 days, then we'll open the bids. Then at the next commission meeting following the bid opening, we'll present the results to y'all, we'll make our recommendations on awarding a bid. Then y'all will accept that, or not, and accept whoever y'all like the best of the bidders. Then we'll send them a notice of award, and, then they can execute their bonds, because of the size of this project, we're talking about doing it $500,000 worth, or whatever that was. We'll have to have bid bonds and work bonds and all that as part of this project. They will have to be executed, contracts signed. We'll have to take those contracts after they're signed, send them over to the county attorney's office so that they can look over and review that, make sure everything's like it should be. And then the contract's executed, signed by the chairman based on the vote that y'all made. So there's some time involved in that. I usually give myself about 60 days for that process.
okay, so in the meantime, if I'm understanding correct, we went on, put this out for bid right now, they striping, he would still have like a 60-day head start, basically.
Yeah, if he was able to start tomorrow,
Yeah, he would have
he would have 60-day head start.
and
Yeah,
that,
he did.
and that would be the ideal situation.
That may not be time, Mr. Burks. Michael knows what it's gonna take to clean up that road. It's gonna take a little time. Cause some of them been needing it for years. This didn't just happen overnight. It's just been a long time. So, let's give him a few months and see how it's going, and then we can maybe bring it back up next month. Let's table it. Come back with the striping.
So leave that on the table about the striping.
Yeah, the striping, let's leave it on the table, but let's make a motion, if I hear a motion for Brandon to go ahead and start the work, whatever he needs to do.
Mr. Chairman, and we can't take a formal motion, of course, during a work session, but if it would be desire of the board to just give Brandon direction to do that, I don't think that technically takes a formal vote. Now, of course, with the striping itself, we will need to take a formal vote on that when the board decides.
Okay, but you don't have to on this, we just suggest that he do that, go ahead and start, okay?
If that's the, will of the board.
Mr. Moore, you seem to be left out of the loop on this discussion. You're gonna be in charge. Those commissioners are not gonna be out there telling Brandon what road to be cutting. So are you good with this?
Yep, and I think Michael already has a preliminary list on the ones he knows needs to be clipped, because we talked about it before. So if that's what the commission wants to do, we can get out, clip them all, and then come back during that time period and bring it back for the commission to decide on which streets.
And there would be, because I remember I was here before, they would run from one side of the county to the other one, because one friend wanted his done, but this friend in Maynard wanted his done, but Bickley had to have it done in 10 minutes.
Right.
But there will be some system.
Right. You'll have
That
to
you
do
will
it, you'll have
take
to do
care
it,
of.
we'll have to do it kinda like we did the street signs, you do it in zones
Yeah.
and quadrants. And then that way, they all stay together and can move together and then migrate through.
And you'll see to it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. He'll migrate around the county and do it. Okay.
If there's any problem, tell us if there's any problem with any intervention.
Okey-doke.
Michael, we recommend you go ahead and start with it. Start to clean up. Okay. Okay, we got resolution 2021-06, 2021 CDBG's
Yes, sir.
submittal
This,
resolution.
this is a resolution to, authorize the submission of the CDBG grant application to DCA. We're applying for $750,000. It is, to pave, there's 6 streets here. 2 of them are primarily drainage, but it's New York Avenue, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia Avenue, California, and Oregon Avenue. We did a survey of low and moderate household income in this area. That's why it qualifies. And so we get a chance to get these roads paved using grant monies.
Okay.
So this resolution authorizes the submission of the grant. On top of that, as part of disclosure, the commission, each commissioner will have to convey if they have a conflict of interest, meaning that will them or a family member benefit from a monetary standpoint in the project. So in other words, would anyone here be getting access to some of the grant funds? If I'm not mistaken, that's how. So in the meeting, you just basically have to adopt or pass the resolution, and then each commissioner will have to say, I don't have a conflict, or I don't have a conflict of interest, or if you do have a conflict of interest, you have to specify what it is.
Okay.
So
How do we
that's it.
know today if we have a conflict of interest?
That's a good point, because typically during the application process, once we know what that is, basically it puts commissioners on notice that if there's an issue that comes up, the commissioners have to speak up in that regard.
So
And
my
even after a
son's-
year of their term too. So if you go out, say next year, the following year, you still can't benefit from it.
So if my sons of concrete construction want to bid on part of this, I don't have a conflict today, but then I would have a conflict.
And there is some language included in the packet. There's a memorandum from the Southern Georgia Regional Commission that details about conflicts. It is very broad in this context, so it's not just the contract itself. It could be that you live in the area, so it's basically, in any way that you would be affected by these grant funds. And if you have any questions about it, specific to you all, certainly I'm glad to, discuss those. If there's any specific questions, we can discuss those outside the meeting as to whether it would rise to the level of a conflict.
Would that affect any, okay, but this is not, the work hadn't been bid or anything, so it wouldn't,
That's correct.
the contractors wouldn't, so it wouldn't.
Right, you wouldn't know anything at this
apply.
point.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't even know if we'll get the grant. We hope we do, because it's a good application because of the percentage of it.
Is this gonna about finish all those roads over there now?
No,
In
sir, I
that-
think there's a few more in there in that,
there a
in
few
that
more in
Emerson
there?
Park area.
More,
Yeah,
some down on the other end.
I think there's a map that shows the target area on this here. But it is gonna get Virginia Avenue, which is a good one to get.
Okay.
Third Street, Fourth Street, Virginia, is a lot of complaints about this.
and by the way, that was actually the note that we got before the meeting. That's one of the streets about getting it paved, so.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Virginia,
Okay, and this is in Emerson Park, I believe it is,
Emerson,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
which would be, So where is this particular area, where is it right now, the Emerson
Over
Park?
around the school, the high school, other side of the high school, when you go out, that's the highway.
Okay,
well, that's
okay,
the
back
highway.
that way, okay. Now, one thing I had in here, and, maybe, our attorney can kinda help me out on this. In this, resolution, it says that Ware County has agreed to provide sufficient matching funds and in-kind service to complete this project, so we got to come up with $750,000 too, or?
Actually, I think the total project comes, do you know what the total, I don't remember what the budget was.
2.2 million.
Yeah, 2.2 million, and, that's one of the ones that we were gonna use, I believe, SPOS dollars for. We had it figured out, and I'll have to go back and look at my notes, but we had it committed in SPOS to match that grant.
So we have the money in the spots now to match our portion if we are.
That's correct,
For
yes,
this
sir.
grant.
Yes, sir.
And we can also offset it with in-kind services also.
Yes, sir.
Is it 10%?
With those, it is, well, I think the minimum is 10, if I remember correctly. What happens is, it's a very competitive grant, so the more you put into it, the better off your chances are. So they usually tell you to try to match at least dollar for dollar.
Right.
And if not, if you can do more, then it helps your application, so, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Add that to the agenda.
Yeah, let's add that one,
Okay.
add that one,
And you'll do that as 2 items.
okay.
Yeah.
This resolution, yeah.
Just,
That's
All right, that Manor Millwood Road, Manor UMC drainage repairs.
yes, sir, this is the one out in Manor,
Yeah,
by the
that-
church.
Let's see here.
Brother, this came up before and we said it's not our problem. We didn't cause this flooding, whatever it is.
Yes, sir, I think the backstory on this is
Where?
the DOT,
Agreed to fund this as, LMIG, additional LMIG project. And as a part of that additional LMIG project, I think there's a 10% match that they were requesting us to provide. So they were not funding the thing 100%. So I think y'all decided,
So they would only fund up to 47,000 or
Yes, sir.
90%, or 90% of the project. So it'd have to be bid out to find the total cost, to find out what they're gonna pay.
correct, and, that is their not to exceed number. So if the bids were higher than the estimate, then the county would be the one to have to, pick up that
Pick up the tab.
difference. Yes, sir.
Will the state be bidding this out or the county be bidding it out?
On those LMIGs, that usually works out to where the county is responsible for bidding it out and
Right.
administering the contract for that.
Brandon, is this a cash match or is it in-kind services as well?
I think it's a cash requirement for the DOT. I think, that's a good question, we can find out about that.
Ned Barber said he talked to Mr. Corbin and said it was also in kind, but I don't know that. That's just them talking.
That's what I had wrote.
What about the design, to bid it out, you have to have design, who would pay for that, us?
That's the way it has went before with the LMIG
Right.
projects.
How much would design cost?
It's usually about 7 to 8%.
8% of
Yes, sir.
projected cost
Yes,
total?
sir. Construction cost. We've got a design, I don't think we included that in the package, did we? For the,
Yeah, I've got it,
Yes.
I put it in here, I printed it off, it's in there, the budget and the layout.
Yeah.
there's a high profile as well. One of the big unknowns with this is the existing water system in Manor, where exactly it is. And, we included a conflict box, but they can't tell us where the main is, so we don't know if it's gonna take one conflict box or 5.
Jerry, you mentioned that this was something that wasn't our problem, or
flooding is caused by work on, the highway there.
So
But
this
it's
is,
on a county road.
but
I think Mr. Corbett's got money appropriated, some amount of money, right?
whether the
Yes.
47, 8, you know,
Yeah.
but, so, I guess my question is, why are we having to even spend any money that we didn't, it's not our problem? I mean, why is it the state's not taking care of this?
Well, Mr. Burson, they, I'll tell you, it's down at that church there and the old schoolhouse right in front of it. And the state went along here and built this road. Well, they caused the church a drainage problem. And they went back and got a hold of the state and fussed about it and done everything in the world they could, and they have tried to help them correct it. That's why they looked at it. I think that they accepted a little bit of the problem because they want to pay the $55,000 or
You
$47,000.
said they want to accept a little bit of the problem,
And they say you can do it for that, can solve the problem.
but the state the one that caused the problem, right?
Well, I don't know really. The people down there saying they did. And I'm sure they caused most of it, But, I think we could bid the project and see where the bids come in at. And if they high or low, then we'll either accept it or throw it out. If they under the contract, that the state's gonna pay. Chances are it may come in at $37,000.
Then they would, I think with the way the letter is worded, they would, at that point, they would do 90% of 30,000.
They'd give 90%,
County
whatever
would be
it
on the
takes.
hook for the
We still gonna have to pay the 5%,
10%.
10% of it. Okay,
Yeah, we gotta start this project by June the 30th too, in order to get money from the state. Says these funds will be addition to any other living funds allocated to the county.
Yeah.
Failure to begin this project before June the 30th may result in the cancellation of funds.
If I'm not mistaken, you have to show, due diligence, and by that, I think as long as you're under contract by that time, you're okay.
okay.
Yes, sir. That's how it worked with our others. I don't know if it would be the same way.
So do y'all have bid documents ready to bid?
No, sir, we have a design.
And that's it?
We'd have to go through and prepare bid documents.
You can't use this design you got on paper right
Have you don't have a design?
We have that design shown
Uh-huh,
with a plan view and a profile for the pipe. We don't have bid documents ready to go out, specs and all that kind of stuff. It'd take some time to put a bid package together to have it ready to advertise.
That's something you can do without us having to hire an engineer.
Something as small as this, yes, sir, we could probably handle this
yeah,
in-house.
Brandon can do that.
I say put it on the agenda.
Yeah, let's put it on there.
Got it.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Anything else, Mr. Burke? No. You're all right with that, okay. Okay, we got one more. The Ware County Commission meeting broadcast, PEG Channel 10. And, I believe they want to get rid of that. We don't need it, do we?
No, sir, we actually broadcast on Facebook Live. We pay the city of Waycross, I believe it's $5,400 annually to show our 5 o'clock meetings or any call meetings.
Yeah.
So with this, we can actually broadcast more, have a link on our website. And, the quality on Channel 10 is not as good. I've heard many complaints since I've been with the county. The audio's, not that good and the picture's not so good.
Right.
But with this, we can save this amount of money because of the budget situation that probably gonna be in. And then also still be able to broadcast our meetings too.
Okay.
So it's just an idea to, more or less to really try to save money where we can and still be able to provide that service.
Is there a time limit we need to notify them in the contract or anything?
I would probably say at least 30 days, cause
Whatever
we
it
pay
is.
it monthly,
Yeah,
basically.
cut money off, they'll turn it off on it.
They won't show up, yes, sir.
Well, Scott, okay, and I understand you saying, you know, for budgetary constraints, you know, and, you know, we're looking at what we can save, but the people that view it, you know, county residents that maybe don't have access to, maybe don't have the internet out there,
Right.
whereas they may have TV, I guess, I don't know if maybe the fire will run out there or whatever, but I guess I'm thinking about people that maybe look at it on TV, though, senior citizens, I would say, a lot of senior citizens that maybe not that computer savvy to where they can look at it online, and this would be their only, you know, access to the government and what's going on. And, so I just thinking of in that venue right there, you know, it's,
Yeah, and that's the catch. It's one or the other, or leave it alone. So it was more of a idea now that we're broadcasting with Facebook Live on our work sessions and our meetings, and then also to try to look for ways. Beverly's been spending a lot of time going through the budget, finding where we possibly could save as much money as we can.
Take on the outside.
Just an idea.
Area of Waycross, they don't have TV cable in
That's correct.
You don't have.
Yeah, you don't have internet either.
Out there where Everly on Swamp, they don't have cable.
Yeah.
Maynard,
Yeah.
Millwood.
Yeah, you don't have internet. I know there's a lot of places in Ware County that does not have internet.
What is it called, Vive or something?
Yes, sir.
Hey, no, around me down there have Vive.
It's mostly in the city of Waycross and around the donut area, I think, is where they pretty much provide.
All right. Y'all want to put it on the, yep. Let's put it on the agenda then.
so we start getting a lot of feedback from citizens, you know, saying that they can't watch it or whatever. Is that something we may go back and renegotiate with the city as far as the rate that they're charging? At that time?
I don't know, you might have Vive in your area though. I guess you do, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Y'all do?
Yeah, you have to have Vibe to be able to pick up
Be
Channel
able
10.
to pick it up, yeah. Okay. We'll put it on there. All right, the feasibility study for the Griffin Road Drainage Canal. We probably want to table that one because I talked to Mr. Rob McCall this morning about that project right there. And, he didn't call me back last week. He said he was out of town. And, but he did call me today, this morning. And he said that, he's gonna send an engineer to talk with us about it, and he wants to meet me out there.
Okay.
He wants us to show him what we're talking about, and draining that area. And then he's gonna let us know what we can do. So if you wanna just table
I'll just
that
take
for
it
right
off.
now,
Yes, sir.
let's do that then.
I can take it off the agenda.
Okay.
I've got a question. Where is this coming from? Is it right in there wants us to drain their private property, or?
No, we going in there
Well, so
draining
we're draining
behind
all
the
this
Griffin over there. But what we're doing is following down the road a little bit and opening up a canal where it's pull that water down behind all those houses up in there.
No, not with my book. That's a boondoggle as far as I'm concerned.
That's a who?
A boondoggle.
Huh?
You know, I don't understand draining all this property. It's all wetlands. You look at the map, a good large percentage is
You gotta
wetlands.
dig a ditch someday, folks. You can't just let it lay there, son.
Why all of a sudden we draining it?
We need to.
Why?
Cause it been needing a long time. You
Why?
just don't understand.
Why?
There's a lot of
Tell
ditches
me
that
why we
need
need to drain.
We backing it up to people's houses over there. You go over there. Them Griffins over there been over all their life. And there's a bunch of them around over there. And the water has backed up in them yards, and I've never seen it that way, and I'm 74 years old. But today, it's up there.
Why
And
is
it
why
needs
is it
pulling
backing
up.
up?
Because they've logged in there, and they've run all them, the paper company done a lot of it, and I'm trying to get them to help on it. We need some ditches opened up. Yeah, you need to know a little bit about drainage though, because we do need
Yeah.
drainage now. You got to get the water off of you.
No, I don't think it, I don't see the reason for it. Maybe y'all can explain it to me, but
Okay, we will. We'll
I
sure
don't
do
Well, for
that.
right now, we're just gonna
I'll
table
tell
it.
you and show you.
Just gonna take it off right now until,
Yeah, we're gonna
Yes, sir.
table it right now until I talk to Mr. McCall with DOT and see what we can do.
okay, well, I kinda like Jerry, I just really like to know more about what's going on right there. I looked at it, but I couldn't
Yeah.
figure it out. So,
I
I
don't
look-
want to drain half the county, no.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk with you about it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You'll understand that. We got a lot of complaints over there, and they got a suit against the state, and all about that water.
Well, I don't
And the
want us
county,
to
they've
get
been
involved
calling
in
us.
a lawsuit with a private person suing the state.
Yeah. That's the
We
reason I
don't need to
went
get
to
involved
them.
in that.
That's the reason I brought the state in it, because I know that it, some of it could be their problem. If it is, then I want them, if they'll accept it and help us to get the ditch, we'll pull the water table down. We can pull it down 2 foot with 3,500 feet of ditch.
All right, we'll
And I
look
think
at
it'll
it
help
when
a
it comes
lot.
back.
Huh? Okay. Commissioner items, yeah. Y'all have anybody got any items?
I don't,
You got one, folks?
I don't.
Murphy?
No.
Tanner, you got anything?
No, sir.
Okay. County manager,
No, sir, I don't have
you
anything.
don't have anything?
No, sir.
County attorney,
No, sir.
thank you. Okay, we'll adjourn. Fine. Make a motion. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.